Hello everyone, Turner Burner here with another video for you guys. I'm going to do a solo explanation of my recent completion, Paddock gameplay on the Mist. First I want to get into the skill cards, concussive rounds, menace, armored shot, execution shield, and phase. The reason I'm using armored shot instead of terror, which is what I usually use for these solo runs, is because I'm dealing with the matriarch or the carrier, and I need to have bleed damage to bleed those enemies out, or it's just going to take far too long. And there's a glitch that I utilize to bleed out the matriarch later in the video and other enemies. Basically, if I have stem and I use really any ballistics and explosives. So this works for boom shot, and I know it works for Lancer GL as well. I haven't tried torque bow, but I'm assuming it works for that as well. But basically, Paddock gets bleed damage off of grenades if he has stem, explosives, and I can't think of a whole lot that he doesn't get bleed damage off of. I know he doesn't have knife bleed, but that's basically all I can name off right now. But armored shot's going to be used to bleed out the bosses and lower health some scions and things of that nature. But you'll see that in the video coming up. So yeah, let's get right into it. So when it comes down to Paddock, what makes him so great in most maps is the existence of the Lancer. So if the map has a Lancer, especially if it has it right off the bat like this, it's very, very useful because the execution shield, when he's chainsawing enemies, things of that nature, it allows him to kill things while remaining immortal. And then the phase pushes those enemies back as he's chainsawing them. In this first area, there's marks, but you don't use that. But we're going to pick up the sniper, pick up all the ammo, and then we're also going to you fill up all the boxes, which also allows us to fill up our Lancer. We got the elite drone spawn, so it's going to come with an elite drone and 2 snipers. So we don't cross that barrier yet because we don't want to trigger the next set of enemies. Once we cross this barrier, we'll trigger, I think it's like anywhere between 3 and 5 poppers and 2 elite grenadiers in this spawn. I would say for solo purposes, the spawns are equal. The other spawn, if you get elite hunters, you'll get, You'll get elite hunters, and then you'll get grenadiers, and then what'll spawn will be drones. And then later on, you'll get the cryo scion. In this spawn, you'll get the drop scion layer. But in terms of solo purposes, there's the main difference is the scion, and I'll go over that here in a second when the scion comes up. But yeah, everything else can be stunned, chainsawed. It's really not all that different for solo purposes. So right now, I'm trying to lower the health of the grenadier, but then I can chainsaw this popper, get some stem, fall back. So I can bleed the grenadier using armored shot by using my bullets. And since my ult's going to be ready here shortly, I have the choice of chainsawing the poppers or using my bullets. I'm not really big on having Lancer ammo, but for this game, there's certain contexts where I need it, so I have it. So I just bleed out that popper, and then I'm going to stun this elite grenadier, and then I'm going to execute him here in a second. So yeah, the first part's actually really not all that difficult. Not that many enemies, and they don't rush that fast all at once. So just active your long shot, you can headshot virtually everything there, and then you can stun everything as well. So just pick up all the long shot ammo and all the blue boxes, and also get the frag. And then you'll see why the frag's useful here in a second. On the bridge across the way in this spawn, there's 2 drones. In the other spawn, it's 1 elite and drone and 1 elite hunter. I missed my headshot, but since I have armored shot, I bleed them out. And then the scions and sires are going to come down. So that's both drones right there. So that bridge that will eventually go up here, later in the video. we won't have any enemies we won't have those two enemies there to deal with. We may have sires though. So just going to chainsaw sire, put the other sire in fear, and it's just going to be a little bit of that over and over again. Because I have armored shot, I get frag bleed, so I throw a frag to kill a sire and bleed out a drone. And I also use the exact same thing on an elite grenadier that's kind of hiding. There's 2 elite grenadiers. I chainsaw one and I bleed out the other with frags. This drone was very, very aggressive for some reason, which is pretty rare, so I just chainsaw him. So now I have 2 drop shot scions coming up. So when it comes down to the scions, now it's easier to deal with, or at least how I dealt with in the video. I didn't have any stem. When I had stem, I had to be concerned how much I was going to bleed the scion. So this may be a little too technical, but I'm going to mention it anyway and try to help you guys understand it. So the drop shot scion and the cryo scion have different levels of health. So when I would, just give you an example, when I would active headshot a cryo scion with stem, it would not take the cryo scion to 50% health, which means that the reflective scion didn't kick in. So the blue shield didn't kick in, which means that the next time I hit the scion, it did go under, but then I bled out. So relative to your cards, this may be slightly different, but relative to my cards, if I had stem and I active headshot drop shot scion, it would take him exactly to 50% health, and I would take no damage. And then I would be able to do it again once the reflector went away, and then he would just bleed out. So that goes for the drop shot scion. So 2 actives if your armored shot is level 6. Now if it's the cryo scion, you want to handle it a little bit differently. The frags I picked up, you want to use those. The frags have a better damage output than a sniper bullet, relative to the context of this situation anyway. So the frags will take the cryo scion to 50% health. And then once the reflector goes away, then you can either throw another frag or shoot the lancer or shoot the sniper bullet. It's up to you, and it depends on how you want to handle it. So it's very important that, so you want to use frags on the cryo, and you want to use an active long shot on the drop shot. They have different healths, so when the reflector triggers, it'll be different than, between the frag and the sniper. If you have any questions on that, it's kind of technical, and you kind of have to know through trial and error. If you have any questions on that, just let me know, and I'll try to explain it again to you. So I don't have stem in this one, so I really don't have to worry about any of this, but I'm avoiding drop shots because they like to ricochet off of walls and instantly kill me, which isn't annoying at all or anything. So I just use active shots. 3 active shots kills any scion. That's across the board. So I use this sire to get stem. And then I just active my shot one more time. Well, I missed that one. Active shot one more time to get the scion before proceeding forward. So no sniper, and like I always mention, I really don't like having Lancer ammo, but the reason I have Lancer ammo is there's no real safe, because someone mentioned it in the original video, there's no real safe portion to like close the door, drop a Lancer, and fill up the sniper and not fill up the Lancer. There's no real safe area to do it because all the supply rooms have 2 entry points where maybe only one door shuts, but the other backside is completely exposed. So there's no real safe way to do this. So and there's not enough time to do this either. So I don't really worry about it, and I just hope for the best that I won't get into too many chainsaw flinching, chainsaw reloading situations. And if I do get into those situations, hopefully the fear can get me out of it. Alright, so there's a Grenadier here, so I just stun him and execute. Boltock Stun is such a good card because I think it works at any distance. So Just chainsaw sire. There's a ton of sires that you just gotta be ready to chainsaw. And here's an area where it would be nice to just drop the lancer, but nope, the sire is coming up behind you. So you just gotta be ready to chainsaw sire at any given moment. So this next area, you're just gonna go up this. You can get all the ammo for your sniper, which is mainly good after this. Here's another sire. Which is the sniper is mainly good for after the safe room. So that way you have more than enough for the enemies that begin after the safe room. But here's 2 sires, really no big deal. Just keep chainsawing and put the other one in fear, and then chainsaw the other one. After you chainsaw the sire, you can close this door, make sure nothing comes behind you. And since we killed the 2 drones, there's nothing on this bridge, so you can get this ammo box and the ammo box on the other side in peace. Any solo runs is critical, and usually anyway, to get all the ammo to make sure you don't need any later. So at this point, you're just going to do. There's really not much I can explain here. I did have a specific strategy, but the sires coming up on that right side was completely brand new as of this video. They usually came up on this left side that, it's in the left side of your screen. So that kind of threw me off. But so I just basically kept chainsawing things, putting the enemies in fear, using my ultimate, and just kept cycling that. I get into a lot of dicey situations, but as long as I'm chainsawing or executing, that's the only way I'm keeping myself alive. So chainsaw sire, I know there's either going to be elite grenadiers or poppers, so I just got to be mindful of those, and obviously more sires. So here's a popper that comes up behind me, chainsaw him, back up, that way I don't lose my stem. The stem's not great, but it does something. A drop shot scion can still one-shot kill you with stem. It's probably the weakest stem in the game. So here's an elite grenadier. I don't try to melee combo because that's probably not going to work anyway, so I just chainsaw. Here's the chainsaw flinch, and now I'm reloading, so I use my ultimate here to try to get out of that. And all I can do is try to get 4 more executions. That way I can charge my ultimate just in case I need to use my ultimate again, basically. And luckily there's just enough enemies where I got my ultimate again. I lose my stun instantly because there's a drone. I pop my ultimate again. So I just keep, as long as I have 4 enemies to chainsaw nearby, I'm going to be safe. Chainsaw flinch, now I'm reloading. Got lucky there with the sire. Almost died here. But yeah, the main thing with Paddock is you just got to keep executing to stay alive. If you remember from my Paddock on the end video, that's the main thing. You just got to keep chainsawing, keep executing. And if your execution shield's not level 6, get it to level 6 because that's a game changer. So I just stay in cover because I'm pretty sure there's drones trying to shoot at me. And right now I just bolt to the safe room as best I can. There's a drone here, and since the reason I pop my ultimate on one drone like that, because I'm not really big on doing stuff like that, is because there's been a few attempts even in solo runs after where my triple combo doesn't work on a regular drone. So I wasn't in the mood to taking any chances, and I did have my ultimate. So I figured I'd just pop my ultimate to chainsaw this one drone and then get to the safe room. And then you can do stuff like that because I have menace, so I get my execution every 4 chainsaws anyway. So I chainsaw this sniper, and I'm already halfway there to over halfway to my ultimate again. So just go to the safe room, no big deal here. Things will spawn behind you, but you can just shut the door. So yeah, that's the gist of before the safe room. Just, sniping, chainsawing. If you get the cryo scion, you want to use frags to get it to 50% health. If you get the drop shot scion, you want to use the sniper to get to 50% health. I dropped the Lancer because it's so full and I don't want that one, and I know I'm going to get a Lancer in the safe room. I think there's a few Lancers, and that Lancer just drop has 460 bullets. The Lancers I'm going to pick up here will have 50 bullets. So since this is a safe area, I was able to pick up all the blue boxes and then to fill up my sniper and Boltok, and then pick up the Lancer. So for solo purposes, I got the better spawn, which is Elite Hunters, which means I get the Matriarch. I'll explain why it's a better spawn, but at this point, it's just target practice. It's really not a big deal. I just happen to miss that shot because it's hard to see a little bit with the mist. So you just aim, and when it's hard to see, try to use the buttons you use for marking, and the enemies will, appear basically because you've spotted them, even if as long as you're aiming in the direction that they're actually at. So I go up to this side. I think there's 2 elite drones. The main thing here is to try to get kills either by just quick headshots, but do not lose your stim because you want to get that bleed. Even right here, this elite drone's hiding, but because I have stim, I could hit his arm and bleed him out, so that's kind of nice. And then I just headshot the elite hunter across the way. So I'm not sure how many elite drones are remaining, but I know there's elite hunter, maybe 1 or 2 elite hunters remaining. So remember I told you about drop shot Scions, so that was 1 active shot, right? So that's going to trigger his shield. Okay. And then once his shield goes away, I'm going to just shoot 1 more active shot, and that's going to kill him. That's going to bleed him out. So that's going to be just 2 active shots on the drop shot Scion. It's just good to know what your bleed damage as Paddock is going to do to these Scions. Maybe different at different levels, but I discovered a long shot twice is going to kill a drop shot Scion. So I was hoping he was going to pop up, or I don't really like rushing drop shot Scions because they like to no scope headshot, so they kind of make me a little bit nervous. But anyway, I was able to get that one. I ended up going to him, and he's going to bleed out here in a second. And there's an elite hunter, little bit cloaked across the way, so I headshot him. And then there's one down here that I'm a stun, then execute. So that Bolt Talk stun is really nice for even score runs because you can stun meat shield. So just keep that in mind. Sire coming up, so I just chainsaw him. The fact that they added chainsawing Sires to this makes it easier. Oh, you see how I picked up a shock there? In general, basically I would say all of my attempts, an elite drone, after the safe room drops a shock and I was able to get a red box to get a second shock. The shocks, because armored shot, there's a glitch now, where armored shot gets bleed damage on certain explosives. The ones I know that works are boom shot, Lancer GL, and frags. So, or I guess all grenades, I should say. The shock grenades will allow you to bleed out the carrier or the matriarch. Now, the reason why the matriarch is better than the carrier, so if I were to throw shock grenades at the carrier spawns at the LZ next to the Scions. The Scions have the reflector, which means that if I'm bleeding out the Scions, once it gets to a certain point, it's just going to kill me. So the matriarch is extremely aggressive in this operation. So the fact that when she spawns, she rushes away from all of her teammates, I'm able to bleed her out and not bleed out other Scions in the process. So that's why I like the matriarch spawn versus the carrier spawn. Alright, so I go in this room. I do want some Lancer ammo, but not a ton. So here I get the second shock. So since I dropped my Lancer, I'm almost positive I shut the door. Yeah, I shut the door because if a Sire comes behind me and I'm on my Lancer, the game ends. So I use this to pick up all the blue boxes. Or excuse me, I'll drop the Lancer so I can pick up all the blue boxes and fill up my sniper. So I have 13 long shot and 210 Lancer. The Lancer is mainly for enemies that are running away from me or the matriarch if I need them. You'll see that here in a second. But at this point, I'm watching behind me because it's not uncommon for Sires to come up behind me. So I look both ways. I try to headshot so I try to mark what I can't see. And, I marked a Sire that if I did mark it, I wouldn't know it was there. So that's a good tip. If you can't really see an area, just try to mark in that direction just to see if the game spots something for you that allow you to pinpoint where things are. So I get 2 elite grenadiers rushing me. And I know at this point it's critical for me to keep my stem, so I do everything in my power to either not get hit as much or make sure I get executions on these two guys. So I typically wouldn't pop my ult in this situation, but I do just because I definitely want to keep my stem. And with Menace, I get my ult every 4 executions anyway, so I only need 2 more. And then with the Sire, I'm able to get 1 more almost immediately. So I just need 1 more execution, and I'll have my ult again. There's an Elite Hunter right there. I didn't active my shot because I have Armored Shot. He's still going to bleed out because I did a headshot hit. So I move up, check my corners, checking for Elite Grenadiers and Elite Hunters because they can hide around these corners and blast you. You just got to be careful. So, and I'm not sure the amount of enemies in this area 100%, so I'm like gingerly walking forward to make sure I don't die. There's a Elite Hunter there. I missed my headshot hit, so he lives a little longer than he should. So right now the Matriarch's coming, so I quickly headshot him and run back. So with the Matriarch, she is right there. I just tossed 2 shocks, and since I still have my stem, she's going to bleed out very, very fast. So like you see, as she's bled out to almost nothing. 1 Boltok shot, she's done. So that was very, very fast when it comes down to killing the Matriarch. Works out because, TC has these glitches in the game, so it is what it is. Anyway, I got 9 shots in my long shot, which is plenty for the rest of the game. I shut this door because I don't want anyone coming up behind me. So I don't get any blue boxes here because I don't want to fill my Lancer anymore, and I don't need any more shots. So I headshot the 2 elite drones that are up here. There's always going to be 2 elites, and the other spawn is 2 elite snipers. And then at this point, I just got to deal with Scions and elite drones and Sires. So I try to get 1 active headshot on the Scions from a distance away. That way, when they come up, their reflector shell's already been triggered, and I just have to shoot them again. But I think I messed up on one of the Scions, so that plan didn't work out. So I just chainsaw the Sires. Really, just no big deal here. That Sire tries to run away, and I think I'm able to bleed him out with the Lancer. That way I don't have to deal with him later. So there's 3 elite drones that spawn down here. I picked them off, so there's 2 more now. And there's also 2 elite grenadiers that come up. So I have armored shot, so I can bleed these guys out as opposed to rushing them to get an execution. Takes a little bit to bleed them out, even with active, but as long as we get it done, we get it done. So that Scion is above 50% health, so I got to be very, very careful on how I shoot him. I'm not entirely sure why he's at over 50% health, but he is. Execution shield saves me, puts these guys in fear. And I melee the one that's over 50% health because I want to trigger his reflective shield. So his shield's triggered, so I can't melee him anymore. And now I just try to bleed out both Scions with Lancer. So now I don't have to worry about the reflector on either Scion. So now I have a few Sires, I forget how many, and then I just have 1 Scion, and I think 2 elite drones the rest of the game. So the elite drone comes up, and elite drones give away their position. I think the guy says shock out, so you just gotta be mindful when he throws the shock. So I just use my Lancer to try to bleed out this Scion. This serves 2 purposes. I'm trying to get rid of my Lancer ammo while also trying to kill the Scion. The elite drone throws the shock, so I'm just falling back away from the shock. That way I can keep my stem. It's not much defense, but it's a little bit. The stem will not protect you from a drop shot Scion. It'll still one-shot kill you. So I just chainsaw the Sire. And the reason I pause it here, unless people were confused, and honestly don't remember because I don't see my old notes anywhere, but when it comes down to solo run strategy, some of my strategies are tied to knowing when the doors are going to close. So I paused this to check my notes, which I don't even know where they're at, to see how long I have before the doors close. Knowing when the doors are closed will allow you to know if you are behind schedule, if you're ahead of schedule. And I was slightly ahead of schedule after the safe room in this game. So I chainsaw a Sire. There's an elite drone to my right that I see, but I see a Sire, so I'm going to use the fear. If it was just the elite drone, I'd either try to stun him or use my ultimate, depending on what was necessary. bleed out this elite drone running away, and then there's just one straggler elite drone that I'm going to headshot here in a second, and that's it. So that is all the enemies after the safe room until I cross a certain point and a sire triggers. But right now I have 59 Lancer bullets, and it's very important I get rid of that for the LZ. So sire triggers, I think because I went to the LZ as sire triggers. So I chainsaw the sire. And then right now I just wait for the doors to close. I could close them, but it's really not a big deal. I just kind of I've gotten in the habit of waiting for the doors to close at this point. So anyway, I get ready to chainsaw the first thing I see. And this cover is not as good as the end because the shock poppers will detonate, shocks essentially. It's not just a regular juvie. So I have to kind of move away from the shock and then just be mindful of where all the enemies are at. While also dodging the drop shot Scion. I see that sire, but I want to chainsaw something in the middle. That way I put everything at the LZ in fear. That was just a preference of mine at the moment. So I chainsaw the Elite Grenadier, and I believe there's only 2 sires I can chainsaw. None of the Scions made it out, so that's kind of nice. I don't know if the shocks slowed them down or whatever. But that's pretty much it for, Paddock solo on the Mist. It got a little dicey before the safe room, but that's pretty much it for this. It's nothing too difficult compared to some of the other ones I've done, but this is one of the highest kill totals compared to the other ones I've done for sure. But yeah, fun time. It was nice to kill the matriarch quickly. But yeah, stay tuned for the next video and tell me what you think of this one on the Mist.